Welcome to the weekend edition of the Fear and Greed Business Headlines. I'm Michael Thompson, and hello to you, Sean Aylmer.
Hello, Michael.
Now, on weekdays, it's all about the Fast Five, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. On the weekend, though, we're still going to keep it to 5 minutes, but we're going to pick out the biggest story of the week, our favourite story, the sleeper story, which is one that's trying to fly under the radar, and the most remarkable story. So let's get into it, Sean. What was the biggest story of the week for you?
Well, I think the good news around COVID. Now, we had some rise in numbers in cases in New South Wales and Victoria in the past couple of days. Expect more of those as the economies reopen. But overall, things are looking much better. We've got a high vaccination rate, 81% first jab nationally, 71% total. Businesses are jumping on board. Woolworths said 170,000 workers must be vaccinated. Wesfarmers, Aldi's, Commonwealth Bank, Westpac, BHP, Qantas, Virgin, all moving down that same direction. Pretty exciting, I think.
You know what? I agree with you, Sean. I think this is the biggest story of the week, but it got even better yesterday with some really good news from Qantas.
Sure did. They're bringing forward their flights into and out of Sydney. Within weeks, you'll be able to book flights to Singapore, Bangkok, Phuket, Johannesburg, Fiji. Then next in line will be Delhi and Honolulu, Vancouver, Tokyo and New Zealand. It really is exciting that the world, not just states, are opening up.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And it is absolutely the biggest story of the week for me. Sleeper story. Can I nominate one first?
Sure.
I reckon the sleeper story this week is actually the number of bank branches and ATMs that have disappeared in the last year. Nearly 10% of branches shut down last year. Nearly 20% of the ATM network disappeared. Couple of reasons. People don't like cash in the COVID world. I completely get that. But the other thing is that bank branches are really expensive to run, obviously, and especially when there's other options like online lenders, mobile lending, all that kind of thing. For me, it's the sleeper story because if this had happened 15 to 20 years ago, it would have been a major story. People would have been in an uproar over it. But because they're pretty comfortable with the new way of banking, it's a sleeper story because no one really minds.
Fair call, but I think the fact that a government inquiry this week found that Rio Tinto was at best incompetent and at worst deliberately deceived traditional owners over plans to blast the Yukon Gorge back in May last year is the sleeper story. At the end of the day, this report has recommended sweeping change to legislation around how miners deal with traditional owners of the land. No one's going to argue about that. It'll be really interesting. The rubber hits the road when the details of the changes are worked out. That will pit the government and traditional owners against the miners. That is a big story. That's why it's a sleeper story for the week.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But you know what? I think we'll have to agree to disagree on that one. Remarkable story. What did you pick out as the most remarkable story of the week?
Well, Donald Trump starting his own social media network, Truth Social. He's been kicked off Twitter and kicked off Facebook. So what's he done? Well, let's just start my own. It'll attract plenty of fans. You can imagine that. Mind you, can you imagine the types of people that will join? I don't know. I've missed Donald Trump a little bit. Not so much his policies. He was just really newsworthy. CNN and MSNBC, the big news cable channels in the US, have dropped 50% of their audience, Michael, since he left the presidency. I think it's quite remarkable that he's going to start his own social media network.
Yeah, that is a pretty remarkable story. I have a nomination as well for Remarkable Story of the Week. For me, the fact that Bitcoin hit a record this week of $66,000. That's pretty amazing. It really shot up after the first crypto exchange traded fund launched on Wall Street. But to me, it's really exciting because Bitcoin has staged a remarkable recovery over the last few months. It was down around $30,000, hit by criticism over energy consumption and Beijing's crackdown on digital currencies. So for it to go from 30,000 to 60,000 plus, that is a remarkable story.
Fair call. Now let's move on to the favourite story. Mine was about golf. The fact that a game that takes 4 hours or more has experienced a massive resurgence during COVID really typifies the way society has changed over the past 18 months. We've all taken a bit of a breather. Golf's experienced a resurgence because it's one of the few things that people could do. They've got more time. I actually like the idea that we have more times, and that's why it's my favourite story, this one. However, I do think I'm going to miss lockdowns just a little bit because we're all going to get busy again.
You know what, Sean? That is such a good news story that I reckon I'm going to back you on that one. That is fantastic. My favourite story of the week as well.
What was it going to be, though?
I was going to nominate Squid Game, and the fact that it has resulted in a massive spike in subscriptions for Netflix and really helped them to have a cracking quarter. And it's a pretty good story, but golf for me is going to be the favourite of the week.
Fantastic.
All right, there we go. 5 minutes, pretty much everything you need to know in the world of business. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll be back on Monday morning with the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson. We look forward to your company then.